Three young, one-sized figures stand on the wooden gallows, their thin necks bound by rough rope nooses, the morning mist curling around the cold timber. The lever is pulled, the trapdoors swing open, and a sickening crack echoes as a tiny bone snaps, sending the limp bodies into a slow, eerie swing against the morning mist. A hand hovers over a blood-spattered face. Golden light blooms from the palm, knitting shattered bone together. The hand trembles with a lingering warmth, the same heat that once held a dying wife's hand. A diviner leans over a small form, eyes scanning the small form like an open book. He exhales a slow, steady breath, then whispers, "Life-taker. Murderer." His voice cutting the quiet air. An old man lies on a hospital bed. Machines beep rhythmically. The scent of lemon cleaner fills the room. His wife's hand presses hot against his freezing palm, a fleeting surge of warmth against the chill of his dying grasp. His soul rises into a swirling ocean of stars, drawn toward the blazing core of a colossal sun that roars with gravitational fury. He thrusts away from the sun, muscles straining, and snatches a tiny drifting mote of light with his newly formed hand. Darkness returns, now starless, swallowing the void that once glittered with distant suns. Pressure builds as walls close in. A wave of overwhelming guilt crashes over him, as if he has shattered an unwritten law. His head is forced through a yielding opening. Cold air rushes in, blinding light floods the scene, and rough hands seize him. Michael lets out a raw scream, the only sound he can produce. Michael bends over a writhing small form, reads the young one like a book, exhales slowly, and shakes his head in disapproval. Beyond a threshold, Michael and a woman cry out together, their voices echoing the grief he once shared with his wife over their dead son. Michael is carried into a freezing night, not held to a chest, not rocked, and no words are spoken. In a dark cradle, memories flood back. Instinct urges Michael to scream. Michael screams until exhaustion drags him into sleep. A cold metal cross is laid across Michael's chest. A stranger leans close and whispers a spell. The foreign words suddenly make sense to Michael's ears. Vance leans down and whispers to Michael, accusing him of being a life-taker who stole a young one's owed life. Vance explains the sentence, saying the punishment will be 10 years of service and that an alchemical brew will shrink Michael's body to 16 years old in a single dose. Vance warns Michael that deserting or running will lead to hanging, while staying silent will earn hatred. Vance tells Michael that in other worlds they would simply dash his head against a stone. An alchemist pushes a leather teat into Michael's mouth, and he drinks the warm, grassy brew to survive. At night, Michael's limbs ignite from within, his bones stretching in fire. Michael screams into the darkness until the pain settles into an aching heat, then collapses into sleep. By morning, the world returns in vivid color. Michael lifts a tiny, clumsy alien hand and clenches it before his face. A woman in gray sits beside a wooden cradle, gently laying 2 weathered cards marked Talk and Taw before the small form. Her voice soft as she builds a fledgling language from the sounds that stir the young one's hungry mind. The gray-clad woman continues to arrange the cards, her fingers tracing the symbols as the small form coos, each syllable a step toward understanding. A faceless bureaucratic city drifts past. Rows of gray uniforms with silver buttons line the streets, while walls stripped of paint loom in the distance, and a solitary marble soldier holds a sword before his face in an empty square. The marble soldier remains motionless, the sword poised before his face, as the empty square echoes with the silent march of the gray-clad crowd. 3 moons, green, silver, and gold, hang over a night road, casting an otherworldly glow on the foreign landscape he now inhabits. Under the tri-moon light, the road glistens with dew, and distant silhouettes of trees flicker as the wind carries a faint, eerie melody. A wooden wagon creaks as teenage recruits board, their eyes burning with eager anticipation for the war that lies ahead, while they exchange farewells with their parents. The recruits clutch their packs, their youthful faces alight with determination as the wagon doors close behind them, sealing their departure. The recruits whisper among themselves about Ticinia in the north, Slavers, rapists who feed prisoners to dogs. Propaganda they truly believe. Their eyes dart nervously as they exchange hushed rumors, the weight of the stories hanging heavy in the night air. At a stop in a wide field, a bird circles the sky. Its shadow expands, and four clawed legs emerge within it, an ominous creature descending toward him. The bird's shadow swallows the grass, and the creature's claws break through the darkness, poised to strike. He sprints on tiny legs toward the caravan. The griffin shrieks, its massive talons snapping just behind his back. The tiny-legged runner darts forward, his breath visible in the cool air, as the griffin's roar echoes across the plain. At the last instant he dives beneath the spread talons. The beast misses, its claws clawing at empty air. He lands safely on the ground as the griffin's talons snap shut, the creature's frustration evident in its guttural growl. The griffin crashes to the ground, its massive body tumbling through the grass as Ivra's spear pierces its flank, sending the creature howling back into the sky. The academy gates swing open onto a sprawling courtyard where rows of recruits line up with bows, horses, and blunted swords, while barked commands echo through the still air. An officer shouts, "Fall in!" The recruits line up. The officer scans each face for a heartbeat, then reaches him. He barely restrains the urge to spit. Klein walks ahead, relaxed as a lion over his pride, muttering, "With me, penitent." The penitent barracks reveal rows of bunks, young ones in hospital gowns, a lone young one crying quietly in a corner, the dreariest kindergarten imaginable. A foreign clique drags his bundle toward themselves. He drives a tiny fist straight into one of their faces, forcing them to step back. Ali shoves them aside, shouting, "Get off him!" He introduces his own group. Marcus rolling a coin across his knuckles, Piotr, red-haired Davi. All bound by a single language in this strange land. He looks into the mirror for the first time, his eyes widening as his reflection meets his gaze. The mirror reflects a cherubic young one with golden curls and blue eyes. Tiny golden sparks flicker around the image before fading. Morning begins with the troops forming in line, the commander snapping a thin cane across knuckles to correct an unbuttoned button. In the infirmary, alchemist Krim locates a vein on the first stick, while Marcus turns pale at the sight of the looming needle. Krim leans close, whispering a filthy joke into Marcus's ear, the words breaking his concentration as the injection proceeds. Marcus watches the needle enter his arm without flinching, while Krim narrows her eyes, saying nothing. In magic class, Teft ignites a small orb of light on his fingertip and commands, "Find your channels." He drives foreign magica into the students. The force knocks him off his stool onto the floor. The camera pans over a dimly lit barracks hallway. A boy slams his foot onto a wooden desk, his hands gripping the edge as he curses in Hindi, his voice echoing off the plaster. He jerks his head back as a heavy cane strikes his face, the impact flashing in a brief burst of red light. A scream erupts, and two soldiers hoist the boy's limp body onto their shoulders, marching him toward a looming stone tomb that looms in the distance, its doorway yawning like a mouth. A cold wind sweeps across a frozen river that runs from the boy's wrist. He winces, then steadies his breath, learning to let the chill flow through him without his muscles burning out, his eyes narrowing as he feels the icy current disperse the blow. He winces, then steadies his breath, learning to let the chill flow through him without his muscles burning out, his eyes narrowing as he feels the icy current disperse the blow. A rapid montage flashes, a chalkboard filled with alphabet letters and military terminology, a table of edible herbs beside snarling. A rapid montage flashes, showing spiked beasts prowling, hands tying intricate knots, canvas tents being pitched, and soldiers digging shallow latrines in the mud, each vignette blending into the next with relentless energy. Spiked beasts, hands tying intricate knots, canvas tents being pitched, soldiers digging shallow latrines in the mud. Images blur into one another, colors saturate, and the pace remains relentless, conveying the intensity of the soldiers' preparation. The sequence continues, each frame merging into the next with heightened saturation, underscoring the unyielding drive of the trainees. The boy swings his first sword at a training post, the blade thudding dull against the wood as he concentrates on the motion. The boy repeats the swing, his focus sharpening as the wooden post absorbs each dull thud of his blade. Klein steps forward, his posture rigid, and adjusts the boy's grip and stance with precise, exaggerated gestures. The entire row of trainees mirrors the movement, their swords cutting in perfect unison, the rhythm echoing like a drumbeat. Inside a stone chapel, a line of recruits is led to a massive, gilt-framed mirror, their footsteps echoing on the cold floor. Each trainee watches their reflection as a glowing title appears above their head. Resurrected, renewed, two-lifed, life-taker. When the boy looks, his own title flickers uncertainly. His title flares gold in the air, spelling out the restored, as a radiant aura pulses around him, filling him with fierce pride. Klein points to the floating titles, his voice calm yet authoritative. Klein explains that in this world the divine overwrites the soul, that titles and deeds become power, and that diviners read the script etched upon each person's spirit. The camera lingers on his hand as he gestures toward the glowing words. A stack of gray cloth and simple packs appear on the bunks. A plain uniform, a knife, a bowl, a canteen. The boy's cherub-style gown folds away, replaced by a dust-colored uniform that hangs loosely on his shoulders, the fabric rustling softly in the night air. That night, the boy's shins flare with a faint ember. His limbs stretch an inch longer, and the camera pulls back to reveal the barracks bathed in darkness. The muffled sobs and groans of grown men trapped in young ones' bodies echo through the corridors, a chorus of pain that drifts like a cold wind. During a Q&A session, a soldier raises a hand and asks about the death rate. The commander's flat reply echoes through the barracks. In war, half survive, while the indifferent faces of the listeners absorb the stark fluorescent light. A montage of whispered questions follows. Are there monsters? Dragons? Rift spawn? Dwarves? Elves? Winged? The camera flips through illustrated murals on the walls, each depicting the fantastical races. Before settling on a promise of future reward, 50 gold and a place in the city, a banner reads, "We honor our veterans." In the dead of night, the barracks doors slam open, the sudden crash echoing through the stone hallway as soldiers surge inside. Inside the dim hallway, the doors burst wide, revealing the darkness beyond as the nighttime assault continues. Klein's face twists with fury as he shouts, "Fall in, now!" And he seizes the boy's arm, pulling him forward into the fray. Klein's fury erupts as he bellows the command, his voice echoing off the stone walls. The boy leans close to Ali, whispering, "Hear that?" As the night chaos swirls around them. Ali leans in, his staff's crystal glinting faintly as the whispered words reach his ears. No one's crying, and the camera pans to a vacant bunk where Shio's name is etched, the space empty and silent. The empty bunk remains still, the etched name the only reminder of the missing soldier. The interrogation proceeds, each soldier standing rigidly as they are questioned. The questioning continues, the soldier's posture unyielding under the harsh light. One collapses, knees locked, and the others simply step over him, leaving his limp form on the cold floor. The limp form remains on the floor as the others continue onward, the stone echoing their steps. The scene is stark, the lighting harsh, emphasizing the cruelty of the process. Harsh illumination outlines the stone walls, the air thick with the weight of the grim routine. A flashback erupts. Shio, with a young one's innocent face, approaches a weary woman, pleading for kindness. The memory lingers, the pleading gesture frozen in the amber light of the flashback. He convinces her to smuggle him out, then, when caught, presses a blade to her throat, ending her life. The camera lingers on the 3 orphaned young ones left behind, their eyes wide with terror. Outside the prison, a grim tableau stands. A gallows, a whipping post, and squat concrete tombs with narrow slits. Shadows flicker across the stone as a pair of eyes briefly stare out from one of the tombs, then vanish. At dawn, 3 hooded figures are marched to the gallows. The hoods are torn away, revealing the tear-streaked faces of 6-year-old young ones. The nooses tighten around their thin necks. The lever drops, snapping necks, bodies swinging. A few locals clap, their applause echoing hollowly. The memory of the rope's snap sears into his mind, the sharp crack echoing in the cold morning air. He recalls the rope's violent snap, the sound reverberating like a thunderclap across the stone gallows. In the divine chapel, a brazier blazes, its red-hot rod casting fierce light over the stone altar. The red-hot rod of the brazier crackles, sending sparks upward into the vaulted ceiling. A diviner with wildly loose hair steps forward, his eyes gleaming with fervor. The diviner's gleaming eyes reflect the fire as he advances toward the condemned. Klein rolls up his sleeve, exposing an old brand scar on his forearm. The brand scar glints as Klein steadies his hand, the metal fleck catching the torchlight. He declares, "Through this mark we are given the power to cause you pain." The camera zooms on the scar, the heat shimmering around it. The scar pulses as the diviner's words echo, heat wavering across the flesh. A rope is forced between the diviner's teeth. An iron rod sears the back of the boy's skull. The iron rod contacts the skull. A flash of searing light erupts, scattering sparks. Tears stream down his face unbidden as the diviner whispers, driving the brand deeper into his soul. The diviner's whisper seems to echo in the boy's eyes as more tears fall silently. 2 milk teeth clatter to the floor, the sound sharp against the stone. The teeth bounce once more before settling, the echo lingering in the silent courtyard. Marcus's eyes widen as he tears away from the grim ritual, sprinting toward the looming wooden door. He ducks under reaching hands, nearly escaping, but a collar snaps around his neck. 3 soldiers grapple him, holding the young one as the iron presses into his skin, the tension palpable. Quartermaster Dugan, broad as a mountain and as tall as Michael, steps forward, his beard brushing his belt. He mutters, "A dwarf." Then, with a mocking tone, adds, "A human." The camera catches the sneer on his face as he drops a parchment. The narrator reveals that elves are everywhere in the academy, though none are pure, bred down by a king's decree 2 centuries ago. Dugan's gaze sweeps the ranks, noting the 2 wide eyes, slightly pointed ears, long fingers, faded echoes of elven blood. The camera lingers on a young recruit whose ears glint in the torchlight, a subtle hint of his heritage. Ali kneels beside the boy, his hand moving like a drill as he carves a channel through the flesh. He pushes against the icy currents, his muscles straining under the cold resistance. The boy watches, his breath forming a mist in the frigid air as he mimics the motion. Piotr, eyes shut, strains to forge 3 channels simultaneously, sweat streaming down his face. Ali lunges forward, clutching his own arm in horror as he shouts, "Not all at once!" Ali walks away, his shoulders slumped, escorted toward the training hall. He mutters bitterly, "I'll be stuck in a young one's body for a year." The camera tracks his retreat down the long hallway, the walls receding behind him. Krim lingers a moment longer on Marcus's arm, her fingers brushing his skin with an unsettling tenderness. Michael watches, his brow furrowing, unable to place the disquiet the gesture provokes. A ranking board flashes to life, displaying the top spot. A day off, silver medals, better food. Hormone-flooded young ones line up, their eyes fierce, competing for the prize. The trainees pack up a hill and descend, moving without pause. Others collapse from exhaustion, but the boy runs on, his stride trance-like, data lines flashing in his mind as if he were hammering code into the air. Klein calls out, his voice cutting through the wind. The boy stops, realizing an hour has passed. He is the only one still standing, unspent. The mirror glows, revealing his title's gift, the restored, major recovery. A soft golden light envelopes him, explaining why he does not break where others do. The mirror's glow intensifies, bathing Michael in a radiant golden sheen as his title flashes, while Klein watches the transformation with a measured stare. In a graceful display, Piotr spins on the training floor, his movements fluid and balletic, embodying the elegance of a dancer in combat. Piotr continues his elegant rotation, each turn a seamless blend of poise and precision, his hair catching the light with each movement. Michael seizes Piotr as he opens his back, delivering a swift kick to the spine's center, a ripple of light flaring through Piotr's form upon impact. The kick lands, sending a burst of golden light through Piotr's silhouette as Michael holds his pose, the air humming with energy. Facing the towering Davi, Ali feints with a swift hand sweep past the helm, whispering a secret as the giant watches intently. Ali's feint glides past Davi's helm, the giant's gaze following the motion, anticipation building in the silent arena. The strap snaps, tearing the visor down and blinding the giant. A sudden shield bash follows, sending Davi crashing into the mud with a spray of dust. Corto. The strap rips the visor down, blinding the giant. A shield bash follows, sending Davi crashing into the mud with a spray of dust. A shouted voice protests the lack of magic, but Klein steps forward, his stern gaze cutting through the chaos as he delivers his counsel. Klein's eyes blaze with determination as he interjects, his voice steady, promising that cleverness will overcome strength. During their spar, Michael darts past Ali's shield, his bare fist connecting with the little mage's nose in a swift, startling strike. The punch lands, a flash of golden light briefly illuminating Ali's face as Michael steadies himself, the training room humming with tension. A fountain of blood erupts, crimson droplets catching the light as they arc through the air, painting the room with a violent scarlet spray. The crimson spray glitters momentarily before falling, the pool below shimmering with dark ruby hues as the scene holds its breath. The boy's palm glows with a warm golden light, recalling the comfort it once gave his dying wife. Michael presses his glowing palm to his broken nose, and the bone instantly knits together, leaving only a patch of drying blood. Klein inhales deeply, whispering, "Touched by the divine." Klein's voice reverberates as the camera pulls back, revealing the awe on the trainees' faces, a rare display of power in a life-taker. In the infirmary, the golden hand works miracles, mending a broken leg, sealing a split palm, and driving splinters from an arm. The boy's shoulders slump with exhaustion, yet he clutches his own wrist, refusing to fall. Each healing quiets the phantom cries of stolen parents that echo in his mind, the sound fading with each act. His eyes now steadier, a faint smile forms as the last whisper of grief fades away. The camera pulls back, revealing a dimly lit stone mess hall where rows of wooden tables are packed with gaunt soldiers whose eyes burn with hatred. The camera continues to pull back, maintaining the wide perspective of the dim mess hall as the rows of wooden tables and the hostile soldiers fill the frame. In the center of the hall, Mira, wild-eyed and with her hands spread, leans close to the king's distant kin, speaking with fierce gestures as she teaches him to read a soul through empathy. In the same hall, Mira remains the focal point as she leans close, her wild eyes blazing while her hands spread wide, delivering her lesson with animated gestures. She leans in, eyes flickering, and whispers a secret about the cursed well's water fueling the brew that ages them, warning that without it life-takers would be beheaded as small form. Mira continues the hushed confession, her eyes flashing as she reveals the cursed well's dark secret, her voice barely audible over the hall's murmurs. A chaotic tableau erupts. A booted foot catches a table leg, sending a plate clatter. A shadowy figure snatches a loaf of bread from a neighbor's plate, while dozens of scowling faces watch. The mess hall erupts into disorder as a booted foot collides with a table leg. A plate shatters, and a shadowy thief snatches bread while angry soldiers stare. A soldier squeezes a piece of sweet bread between his thumb and forefinger, then flicks the crumbs toward the wooden table while shouting loudly, his face twisted in a fierce grin. The same soldier presses the bread tighter, crushing it completely before hurling the crumbs across the table, his shout echoing through the yard as his eyes blaze with determination. A voice rings out, declaring, "My brother was a life-taker, and I hope he died in his first instant at the front. The words hang heavy over the silent yard. The same declaration echoes across the yard. My brother was a life-taker, and I hope he died in his first instant at the front. A recruit, his arm still marked by Michael's fresh scar, grabs Michael's wrist and yanks him toward the yard's edge, urgency flashing in his eyes. The recruit, still seeing the fresh scar, pulls Michael with a firm grip, dragging him toward the far side of the yard as tension builds. The goblin raises a hand in a silent nod, and the tension eases. The looming brawl dissolves as calm returns to the yard. A silent nod is exchanged, the atmosphere relaxes, and the potential brawl dissipates without a word spoken. Arrows fly and slam into the wooden target with effortless precision as the dusk light deepens over the archery yard. Michael's forearms and shoulder glisten with sweat, the heat of effort making his skin glow as he draws the bow. Destin, mounted on his horse, freezes mid-sentence, his eyes locked onto Michael as if recognizing a long-lost face. In the cramped latrine, a loose tile creaks open, echoing off the stone walls. Marcus, fox-faced and eyes narrowed, pulls out a bucket of fetid prison hooch, its surface roiling with floating fruit chunks that emit a sour vapor. A battered ladle passes from hand to hand. The young soldiers clutch it, laughing loudly, their voices echoing the men they once were. Morning light filters through the mess hall windows. A fog of hangover hangs over the crowd. Michael stands apart, his recovery shield humming faintly, as he hands cold water canteens to his comrades, the liquid glinting like ice. Marcus leans close to Michael and whispers, "We'll need money when the chance to leave comes." A close-up of a tray of syringes reveals each vial's tint, red, blue, clear, while Michael watches, noting the meticulous calculation behind each dose's selection. He studies the mixing of cursed water with regular tonic, his brow furrowing as he wonders why the blends grow harsher, tighter, more controlling. Night falls. Michael stands before a cracked mirror in a dim cell. Reflected titles and deeds smolder in gold lettering. He stares at his own face, thinking of his wife and young ones, his eyes searching distant worlds. In a shadowed office, Klein raises an eyebrow as Michael makes his request. Michael says, "I want to send my silver to the family of the body I took." His voice low and resolute in the dim infirmary. Klein remains silent, his gaze lingering on Michael before finally nodding. His voice low as he whispers, "I'll pass it on," Michael replies, "but it would be better if they don't answer," his tone edged with caution. Klein, an old man trapped in a boy's body, places a handful of silver coins into Michael's palm, the weight of the metal hinting at debts that can only be carried, not repaid. Months later, Michael gazes into the mirror. Golden curls now fall to his shoulders, reflecting his changed self. His eyes blaze blue, his body lean and muscular, a visage worthy of a propaganda poster. He clenches his fist, feeling a fleeting warmth as if his wife's hand were still there. The syringes now contain less cursed water and more strength tonic. The camera lingers on Marcus's vial, its tint shifting subtly with each refill. In a stark lecture hall, General Aiken steps to the podium, his voice booming as he announces 2 weeks of exercises. Opposing teams, blunted swords and staves, broken bones inevitable. Marcus bursts forward, slamming a tall recruit into the stone wall, his fists raining down wild, frenzied blows in retaliation for flirting with Krim. Klein, his skin flushed crimson with rage, brandishes his own brand and clenches his fist. Marcus collapses, folding in half from the pain. "Calm down," Klein growls, his voice low and commanding. At the gallows, Marcus is stripped to the waist, chains biting his skin as they bind him to the post. Klein lifts a thin, cruel cane with a leather grip, testing its weight. 15 precise strokes land on Marcus's back. Each blow creates deep welts, his body jerking with the impact. Krim watches from the side, a smile playing on her lips, her eyes alight with a thrill. She wanted this. Michael's eyes widen in sudden realization as he spots the colored syringes, his brow lifting with a flash of surprise. Klein snarls a warning, his voice harsh, while Michael clenches his teeth, staring fixedly at Krim across the square. A commander's voice booms through the stone hall, announcing the grim rules for the upcoming exercises. The group assembles. Michael, Piotr, Marcus, Davi, Ali, assigned to the black team in the northwest forest corner, under Commander Lance. Quartermaster Dugan hands Michael a gleaming new breastplate and a freshly re-wrapped sword hilt, his expression impassive as he mutters a brief commendation. A terse command echoes, crack a few skulls. Mounted instructor Destin fixes Michael with a penetrating stare at the gate, his eyes sharp and unblinking. Destin's gaze seems to look through Michael, offering no answer to the silent nod, the tension between them palpable. Inside a dimly lit tent, Commander Lance shakes Michael's hand with a flawless smile, whispering his orders. Michael studies the parchment, his eyes widening as he reads the impressive lineage of the new ally. A magical horn blares, announcing the start. Marcus's bunk lies empty, his gear vanished. Piotr declares resolutely, "We do nothing, let him burn it off." In a thicket, Ali darts forward as bait while Michael, Davi, and Piotr burst from the brush, cutting down the approaching greens in seconds. Kneeling on the bridge, Michael's hands glow gold as he heals the enemy's shattered knee. Then he strikes, the golden light sealing the wound instantly as 9 flags flutter to his side. On the return march, they encounter a swarm of reds tearing down a camp fence. The enemy spots them, and 7 sprint off in pursuit. On the narrow bridge over the rushing river, Michael turns to face the 7 pursuers alone, shouting, "Run! I'll hold them." Rain pelts the bridge as Michael's helm clangs. A stray staff catches his thigh, forcing him toward a knee, yet a fierce smile cracks his face. Michael presses a glowing palm to his chest. Golden light erupts, sealing his wounds even as the battle rages around him. Michael lunges forward, knocking one foe into the water and kicking a second into the current. Michael elbows a third enemy away. Each time the blows land, he heals, rises, and fights on, round after round, until the bridge's edge looms ahead. The bridge stretches over a mist-cloaked river. Exhausted foes slump to the ground one after another, their weapons clattering in the cold air. The lone warrior sways, clutching a bundle of crimson flags that flutter wildly in the night wind. A figure in pristine white steps forward, raising both hands in applause, his voice echoing across the water. The goblin's grin glows in the firelight, his sharp teeth flashing as the crackling flames cast warm shadows across his scarred cheek, revealing a fierce, unhinged confidence. Lance hoists a massive bundle of crimson banners, the fabric snapping like storm-tossed sails while his eyes blaze with determined fury, the fire reflecting off his clenched jaw. Lance shouts, "7," his voice cracking the night as firelight flickers across his fierce expression, his fists clenched and eyes blazing with wrath. Not bad for an old man. Behind him, Marcus trudges in, his clothes torn, skin smeared with mud and blood. He stands silent, shoulders hunched, the firelight casting deep shadows across his bruised form. A voice cuts through the crackling fire, demanding, "What were you doing out there?" Michael, gaunt and trembling, snaps, "Doesn't matter. Go to hell." Then collapses onto a canvas-top tent, curling into a fetal ball as night swallows him. The camera zeroes in on Michael's clenched jaw, muscles tightening under the dim firelight as a thin sheen of sweat glints on his skin. The camp erupts in frantic motion as torches flare. The 4 soldiers line up, staring toward the forest's northwest edge where a lifeless body lies bathed in moonlight. The assembled crowd gasps, the tension in the air thickening with accusation. The camera zooms to a close-up of the scout's pointing finger, emphasizing the urgent direction. All eyes fix on Marcus as he is hauled forward, the murmurs recalling a legendary black team fighter once embodied by Michael. The shot tightens on Mira's silver eyes, their glow reflecting a solemn resolve. Mira lifts her gaze, silver irises blazing, and peers into Marcus's soul, searching for truth. A cascade of fleeting memories flickers across the scene, showing past deaths that bear no mark of his. Locke steps forward, brandishing his wooden staff, demanding the obvious culprit. Klein interjects sharply, while Mira leans toward Michael, whispering a warning about his wounded soul. Michael's voice cracks as he shouts for answers, his fists clenched and eyes blazing. Marcus stays silent, then swings his arm wildly, missing his target and striking Piotr, who leaps aside with a startled gasp. The clash freezes in an instant. Michael's clenched fist meets Marcus's outstretched arm, the impact radiating tension as Piotr watches and Klein watches sternly. Crimson erupts as Michael crashes into Marcus, both tumbling onto the mud-slicked ground, their bodies flailing amid splattering earth. 6 stern moderators wrench the combatants apart, their strained grunts echoing as they pull the fighters away from each other. A stone slab slides open, revealing a cold, dimly lit tomb beyond. Both men are stripped of their garments and hurled back first onto the unforgiving stone floor, the cold surface glinting under dim light. In the darkness, Michael's fists hammer the heavy iron door, blood spattering the surface as he howls, "I don't want this." His anguished cry fades, echoing his longing for his family into a hollow silence. A single bucket rests in a corner. A narrow slit in the ceiling lets a thin sunbeam slice the gloom, ticking away each hour with relentless precision. Michael drives a bare hand into the stone, a guttural howl tearing from his throat as pain sears his knuckles. The wound blurs his progress, forcing him to endure the healing alone. He mutters a chant, "Soy fuerte," and conjures a shimmering shield around his fists. The first strike shatters both shield and hand. He clenches his teeth, mends the wound, and repeats the spell, each attempt echoing with fierce determination. Weeks pass in the tomb. Sunrise filters through the slit, casting long shadows over relentless drills. Nights are spent trembling over broken knuckles, the shield now holding for 5 consecutive blows. A guard shouts, "Dress properly," and drags Michael to the infirmary. Inside, Lance lies on a narrow cot, a broken leg protruding grotesquely. Beside him stands his father, General Craig, his posture rigid and commanding. Without waiting for an order, Michael places his glowing palm on Lance's shattered leg. A soft light spreads, sealing the fracture cleanly. "A soldier doesn't act without orders," he says. "I'm still learning." Lance forces a cough, hiding a grin behind it. General Craig's voice cuts coldly, chastising his son for his thirst for glory. Michael meets his gaze with the same steely resolve he once held over a dozen foes. Krim leans close to Michael, whispering promises as the morning fog drifts over the camp. Heat surges through Michael's veins, his control slipping as the memory of what she did to Marcus flashes in his mind. In a flashback, Krim's trembling hand clutches a dark leaf between her fingers, the tension palpable as the leaf's veins catch a faint glint. The flashback ends, returning to the present. Michael snatches the leaf from Krim's grasp, forces his mouth shut, and pins her to the cold stone, his voice low and threatening as he looms over her. Michael heals the torn finger with a gentle glow, then lifts the wounded ally to her feet, smiling confidently as he steadies her. The camera focuses tightly on the arrow, its tip glinting sharply against the dim cavern light. An arrow whistles through the lingering fog, embedding in Michael's shoulder, while a second arrow pierces his belly. Arrows embed themselves. One lodges wide in his side, another splinters his shin, and a third pierces his back, each wound flashing with muted light. The camera closes in on Michael's hand, clenched tightly around his sword's hilt, his resolve hardening as he prepares to strike. Michael's eyes flare as he summons a surge of energy, ripping the serrated arrows free, each head tearing flesh as he pulls them out. Behind him, Michael's steps falter, a slow limp echoing across the stone floor. Destin steps forward, bow lowered and sword drawn, his voice cold as he accuses Michael of killing the son of the man who saved his life. A memory flickers in his mind, the moderator's murder playing out as a mistaken vengeance. Michael raises his shield, chanting Fuerte, as Destin's blade arcs toward his heart. The shield deflects the strike, the blade sliding harmlessly under Michael's arm. He counters, slashing Destin's leg. The camera pulls back to a wide view of the stone barracks, the dimly lit hall stretching beyond the training area. Michael and Destin collapse into a pool of blood as Michael knocks an arrow, drives it into Destin's belly, and shatters a shaft into his ribs, the light dimming from Destin's eyes. Mira's silver eyes flare as she reads the souls of Destin and Michael, declaring his spirit released. On the archery range, Huntress Anna spits at Michael, shouting Destin was a friend. While the class drops their quivers at his feet, Michael drops to the ground and performs 300 push-ups, his muscles straining under the harsh sun. The camera moves in for a close-up of the enchanted mirror in the mirror room. The enchanted mirror glows, granting Michael 2 new deeds, Bridge Holder and Revenge Denier, each pulsing with a faint amber light. A distant voice booms from Dugan's tower, proclaiming the extermination of goblins and kelpies. The scene shifts to the Dwarven Mountains, where veins of metal blaze like fire and glimmer like ice. Above the academy, 3 thin crescents of green, silver, and gold hang in the night sky, heralding the approaching festival of blades. Davi and Piotr stride into the open melee, spitting curses at the filthy irregulars that swarm them. The camera pulls back to a wide view of the barracks, revealing the training hall. A horn blares as the field erupts in chaos. Davi fights dirty, fists cracking through armor, while Piotr dances between blows, their movements a blur of steel and sweat. Together Davi and Pirate fell regulars one after another, the crowd's roar swelling. Reaching the arena's edge, Davi and Pirate discard their weapons and helmets, charging at each other with primal fury. The camera closes in for a tight close-up, focusing on the details of the arena floor. In the mirrored hall, Davi drives his clenched fist into Piotr's jaw, the impact sending a gasp through the stone air as Piotr staggers, his knees buckling before he crashes face first into the dust. Davi, a smirk curling his lips, drops to his knees beside the fallen Piotr, sharing the dust-caked floor. A resonant voice declares that the penitent has won, the echo lingering in the hall. General Aiken raises his ceremonial horn high, his booming voice reverberating as he proclaims the penitent's victory. An unseen voice scolds the defeated, urging them to have fought harder against the irregulars. Lance steps forward toward Klein, pleading earnestly, while Klein shakes his head, his warning clear. Michael nods slowly, his eyes reflecting the promise of gold and new deeds. The stone library towers ahead, endless rows of identical tomes disappearing into shadow. From the high arched doorway, Lena darts forward, eyes flashing as she shouts, while Cole and Jakub flank her, muscles coiled. Lance steps into the frame, his cold expression fixed, his words slicing the air as they undermine Lena's stubborn stance. Lance lunges forward, the gleaming spear thrusting into Michael's chest with a decisive strike. Dust erupts across the tiled arena, yet Michael's feet remain planted, his inherited titles granting him a monstrous edge. Despite the wound, Michael's endurance radiates, a silent promise to his teammates. The arena erupts into chaos as 9 teams clash across the maze of pits and narrow bridges. Lena lifts her staff, and a towering wall of sapphire blue light erupts at waist height, its crystalline surface rippling with magical energy. Human foes surge forward, crashing into the sapphire barrier. Bodies tumble over one another as the magical wall repels them with a flash of light. The enemy captain darts beneath Lena's shimmering shield, unleashing a barrage of lightning-fast punches that strike her with relentless force. Michael throws his torso over Lena, shielding her from the assault as a faint golden aura flares around him, activating his running defender gift. Lance drives his forehead into the enemy captain's nose, shattering it with a brutal headbutt. The battlefield falls silent as the horn sounds, and the blacks surge forward, their dark silhouettes stark against the crimson sky. Cole hoists a massive boulder onto his shoulders, mimicking Atlas, then performs exaggerated squats as the stone wobbles comically, his grimace turning into a fierce grin that fuels the crowd's astonishment. The opposing fighters, unnerved by the display, drop their own stones and retreat in disarray, scattering away as panic ripples through the ranks. Lena snatches a vivid green vine that erupts from the earth, its tendrils coiling tightly around her wrist, her eyes widening in startled awe. Lance, perched on a crumbling rock face that seems to dissolve beneath his weight, climbs upward to confront an enemy captain, his resolve unshaken. His face remains calm as the rival collapses, spent and defeated, while the battlefield's tension eases into a tense silence. On a circular track, Michael darts past the other competitors, first gaining a single lap, then a second, his stride never faltering as determination burns in his eyes. He pushes into a sprint until his legs buckle and his lungs scream. He collapses, a spray of blood painting the stone circle. He clutches the last of his strength, a faint light pulsing from his hand as he heals himself, then lies back with his eyes closed. Lance leans over, voice low. Alive! Michael opens his eyes, a faint smile forming. More than. The team steps forward, confidence brightening their silhouettes as they move toward the next round. Exiting the arena, a battered Michael sprints into a narrow corridor where 4 regular guards stand idle, their posts abandoned. He summons a shimmering shield over his fists, the word fuerte echoing, and cracks the first guard's jaw, teeth scattering like shattered glass. Overwhelmed, he curls into a tight ball as blows rain down, his body absorbing each strike. Davi, Ali, Marcus, and Michael surge from the shadows, their weapons flashing as they cut through the attackers with swift, coordinated strikes. Wounded but determined, Michael extends trembling hands, a soft golden aura spilling from his palms to mend allies and fallen foes alike. A harsh voice snarls from a nearby spectator, its contempt cutting through the clamor of battle. Marcus spits a bitter retort, his scornful words hanging in the air as the scene begins to fade. The polished arena mirror reflects a new decree, Run Conqueror, granting minor gifts of speed and durability for a charge or retreat. The inscription on the mirror glows faintly, promising untapped power. Lance outlines the next plan, pointing toward the towering platform where the lordling Captain Rain awaits, his sister, a taker, bound nearby. Lance commands, send Michael first. While Michael hesitates, his eyes flickering over Rain's sister before snarling a harsh insult that echoes across the arena. Rain's eyes flare bright as he steps forward, volunteering to fight alone. With a blaring horn, Rain unleashes a torrent of blows, his speed and strength amplified by his titles. Michael blocks and dodges, his armor taking crushing hits to his ribs and helm. Michael thrusts a spark of fuego under Rain's nose. The lordling instinctively raises a shield, exposing his hip. Michael drives his blade into the opening, a moment of triumph shimmering in his eyes. Rain roars and leaps high, his fury renewed. Rain hacks wildly, shattering Michael's weapon and kicking him off the platform. Darkness engulfs the arena as Michael plummets, his form disappearing into the void. Michael rises, his golden palm hovering over Rain's wound, and whispers, "You're just a young one." He channels healing energy into Rain, the golden light spreading across the fallen captain's body. The team secures 4 of 5 bouts, the arena floor bathed in the lingering amber glow of recent clashes. Lena hisses, "Heal me. That's the only thing you're worth on this team." Lance reveals the festival's hidden purpose, a grueling 4-day endurance test. Michael's rapid recovery means he enters the finals fresh, giving the team a decisive edge. On day 2, the arena crackles with energy as the team dismantles Elias's battered squad. Lance darts with blinding speed, Cole delivers cruel, precise strikes, and Michael spins behind his opponent, a move stolen from Pyrov, the blade flashing in a silver arc. In the final bouts, former teammates turn against Michael. Cole threatens humiliation. Michael retorts, "At least Lena is honest in her hate, while you're two-faced." Lena summons towering blue shields, then smashes through them with her staff in wild, erratic swings. Michael watches a shield flicker, snatches the staff, and presses his sword to her throat, the tension palpable. Cole and Yakub, childhood friends, clash with ferocious intensity. Cole feigns a fall, breaking Yakub's technique, and claims victory with a triumphant grin. Michael, playing into Cole's shame, stumbles. As Cole leaps, a loose board from the platform snaps upward, slamming into Michael's chest. Cole, stunned, topples backward, the board clattering against the stone. General Craig summons Michael into an empty classroom, his voice echoing, "Lose to my son." Michael negotiates with Klein, demanding to be placed with his friends Marcus, Piotr, Davi, and Ali, and Klein nods in agreement, sealing the deal. The final duel with Lance erupts, his presence dominating the scene. Michael refuses to hold back, meeting Lance head-on and catching the opponent's chin with his forehead. For a heartbeat, hope glimmers in their eyes, a fleeting flash of optimism amidst the tension. Lance's expression hardens as his own blood drips, and his speed and strength double. He had been holding back, restrained by his own caution. A swift shield strike shatters Michael's arm and drops him to the ground. Lance stands victorious, his jaw clenched in silent triumph. Michael gasps, "Did you let me win?" His voice trembling with disbelief. No, the terse reply hangs in the air, unaccompanied by any visible presence. "You won fair." Lance remains silent, his eyes narrowed after declaring, "I just hedged my bets with your father." Marcus and Davi burst into the village square, panic blazing in their eyes as they gasp for breath. Michael darts forward, urgency burning in his stride after learning Ali lies ill in the infirmary. Ali convulses on the infirmary cot, blood seeping around him as his body trembles violently. His skin tears as if stretch marks are ripping from within, a grotesque reaction to Krim's final injection. Michael forces a strained smile, his lips curving despite the pain etched across his face. Kneeling on the dusty ground, Michael extends his glowing palms toward Ali, whose wounds stubbornly resist the healing light. Michael closes his eyes and bows his head, silently pleading with the divine to bear his suffering. Ethereal white threads arc from Ali's outstretched hands to Michael, binding their fates in a painful transfer. Michael endures the borrowed agony, his jaw clenched as he counts each breath, the world around him blurring with time. Ali's eyes flutter shut, his body finally still as the lingering pain fades away. The magical mirror flashes, inscribing the new blessing pain transfer, and the rare gift resilient competitor upon its surface. A pulse of light radiates from the mirror, sealing the newly granted powers into Michael's grasp. Michael stands rigid before Klein, his jaw clenched as he reports that Krim's poison crippled the penitents and nearly killed Ali, his voice tight with urgency. Klein narrows his eyes, interlaces his fingers, and whispers a warning, then promises to investigate, his tone low and resolute. 2 weeks later, the front line stretches beneath a bruised sky, rows of weary soldiers forming a somber tableau across the mist-filled horizon. Quartermaster Dugan steps forward, extending a polished breastplate to Ali, the gleaming pauldrons catching the sun despite their aged plates. Dugan clamps Ali's left shoulder, his eyes blazing as he urges, "Don't die." Ali rises, stretching his frame upward until he towers above the assembled troops, a lone silhouette against the bright sky. A hollow black staff, its core threaded with glowing spell foci, materializes in Ali's grasp, humming with dark energy. Mira approaches, extending a steel pendant etched with 6 crossed lines, the mark of the divines, toward Ali. Mira gently places the steel pendant around Ali's neck, her expression softening as she whispers that she considers him a friend, not just a student. General Aiken raises his sword high on the parade ground, his booming voice granting everyone the title Soldier of Stent. Lance receives the rank of Knight Lieutenant and command of the column, the title bestowed upon him by the general. The new title Soldier of Stent radiates a faint aura, granting minor strength, speed, and durability. Hundreds of faces reflected in the mirror, each bearing the faint aura of the new title, including Ali, Mira, and General Aiken. Klein slides the opened letter across the wooden table toward Ali, his eyes steady while his hand grips the parchment firmly. conveying the weight of the message without a word. The parchment's ink details the accusation of the stolen body's family, demanding a brief, agonizing death for the accused, each word heavy with vengeance. Ali folds the letter neatly, his fingers pressing the paper into a tight crease before slipping the bundle into his chest pocket, his jaw set with quiet determination. The column marches out to blaring horns and fireworks. The penitents are positioned in the center of the formation. With their backs turned to the gathering crowd, the young knights chant a solemn march, their voices echoing the deaths of the Ticinians as they stride forward. 2 days later, a messenger in a traveler's cloak bursts into the square, clutching a rolled scroll and pleading for aid against a titled man-eating stag that has slain 3 hunters. Tain and Yakub step forward, their resolve evident as they lead the penitents toward the looming threat, while Klein and Ali watch from the side. In the village square, the villagers glare at the penitents, a finger drawn across their throats. Michael raises his golden palm, and the dying hunter John flickers back from death, his breath returning in a gasp. Michael moves from yard to yard, mending broken legs, mangled hands, and old limps. His work glows with pure good. His work glows with pure good, and the cries of the stolen parents fade to a distant echo in his mind. Michael feels the widow Ria's healed hand press against his cheek, her flirtatious smile evident as she steps close to him. For the first time in a long while, Michael allows himself a smile, his eyes softening with quiet relief. The midnight stag looms in the thicket, its horse-sized body crowned with silver antlers that glint ominously in the mist. Davi crashes to the forest floor as the stag's antlers slam into him, while Michael lunges left to intercept the sweeping horns and Piotr darts forward, firing a bullet that pierces the beast's neck. Yet the creature stubbornly remains upright. Ali slams his hooves into the glowing mud, anchoring the beast as Tain and Yakub drive their spears into its flank, the wood splintering under the force, while Davi watches, ready to strike. Tain drives a blazing brand into the beast's side, searing it as the penitents howl in pain. Then he hurls Piotr aside with a powerful shove. From the brush, Marcus shouts, "The kill is mine!" and fires a bullet that bursts through the stag's skull, sending the massive body crashing to the ground. Villagers haul the massive carcass to the village square. As dusk settles, a bonfire crackles, a lute strums, and the meat sizzles, filling the air with savory steam. Even sour-mouthed Tain boasts to the village girls, proclaiming, "My victory," as the sunset paints the road in golden hues. By the stream, Ria finds Michael washing his clothes. He mutters a litany of excuses, then drops his guard, laughing, "Ah, screw it." Marcus, having forgotten his belt, appears with a smirk. "Good wash." The two exchange a friendly fist bump, their camaraderie solidified. On the road back, Michael reads Ali's deeper notes. The title 2 life grants considerable magicka and dual thought, allowing 2 spells at once, a power tef called lethally dangerous. The carcass is handed to Lance as a trophy and commanders do. At a fork, the penitents part Lee, Prakash, and Ogun stride toward other fronts. The road leads to a grim, gray fortress town. Livestock roam free among hundreds of soldiers, their uniforms filthy, bandaged, eyes empty with veteran fatigue. Inside the barracks, the takers are crammed with ordinary criminal penitents. The fat Arl climbs onto another's bunk, but 5 takers grip their hilts, forcing him to retreat. Bell strides down the dim forest road, his eyes scanning the wounded group. He gestures toward the healer, urging the mage, the dragoon, and the 3 trainee knights to follow him toward the infirmary, his voice firm and urgent. The infirmary stretches into a nightmarish hall of overflowing bunks, where the air hangs heavy with wounded cries, the sour stench of rotting flesh, and the cloying scent of blood and vomit that clings to every surface. Medic Holt sharpens a bone saw, his voice cold as steel. "Shame you didn't come a couple minutes sooner," while 2 healers rush past, never reaching the common soldiers. Michael moves from bunk to bunk, his trembling hands tending spear wounds, arrow-pierced backs, and magical burns, restoring sight to a blinded comrade despite his exhaustion. Dozens of injuries crowd his vision: broken bones, a skull caved in by a mace, a lightning scar, each wound a frantic reminder of the battle's toll. A stern officer orders Michael to mend only those who can return to the line. He grits his teeth, his resolve hardening under the desperate eyes of the doomed. He sews slit bellies, plugs leaking guts, and staunches blood until darkness crowds his vision, then collapses unconscious from sheer exhaustion. He awakens, trembling, and forces his legs to carry him deeper into the ward, drawing the dying's agony into himself so his consciousness can endure. He collapses to his knees, whispering a prayer of thanks as the stunned eyes of medics and patients watch his surrender. In the polished greave, his reflection reveals a new deed, Fort Healer, and the blessing now simply titled Healing. He pricks his arm with a knife. The wound seals instantly, granting him the ability to heal at a distance even amidst battle. He sleeps for 2.5 days, the price of the lives he saved, while the fortress's hostility toward him softens into wary respect. Bell spreads a map on a wooden table, pointing to a caravan of mercenary pay beyond the front line, assigning 2 irregular scouts to lead and the remaining penitents to serve as muscle. Night falls as the party marches through enemy lines. Night eye glows faintly, footsteps muffled. The cold air sharp as they freeze at the glow of patrols in gleaming armor. Dawn reveals an abandoned farm. Michael and Pirate step forward, weapons drawn, ready to clear the house. A wooden doorframe bears 3 deep notches, each etched with a name. Michael runs a fingertip along the grooves, his hand trembling. Michael's eyes glisten with tears as he shifts his gaze from the carved notches to the dim hallway, the weight of foreign rituals pressing on him like a distant memory of home. The night sky looms black above the barn, its silhouette illuminated by the erratic glow of flickering torches. Inside, a ragged group of scouts and criminals beat a trembling Ticinian deserter, their shouts reverberating off the wooden walls. Michael's desperate cries mingle with the attacker's cruel laughter, reverberating off the cramped timber walls as his eyes blaze with anguish, his clenched fists trembling against the rough wood. "Patch him up, we want another go," a voice commands. Tom steps forward, his palm hovering over the glowing brand, the blue aura pulsing like a heartbeat against the dim interior. Michael watches, his features hardened into a mask of silent resolve as the brand's heat draws the deserter's agony into his own veins. Michael steps into the circle of torment, lifts his sword, and drives it straight into the deserter's chest. A surge of foreign pain flashes through Michael's vision, then collapses with the dying man's breath, leaving him gasping, chest heaving in the dim light. Brand thrusts the brand forward, shoving the charging attackers aside, his voice roaring, "Enough!" as the torchlight flares behind him. Michael turns his gaze toward the notches carved into the wooden doorframe, the candlelight flickering across the grain as dawn's first light threatens to break the night. Morning light spills through the doorway, illuminating dust motes that drift lazily in the air. Michael stands before his companions, his voice steady as he warns them of the looming threat. "The criminals will come for us. Be ready to kill them first." The others each give a firm nod, their silhouettes framed against the sunrise. A narrow road is blocked by a battered trunk. A caravan of 10 armed guards and 4 civilians trudges forward along the dusty road. A single bullet whistles, striking the sergeant's horse. The animal collapses, and the sergeant screams, clutching his crushed leg. The penitents surge forward, muscles tensed as they charge across the dusty road, eyes fixed on the enemy ahead. Michael hoists his shield aloft, slams it into a guard's chest, then drives his clenched fist into a second foe's face, eyes blazing with fury. Blood arcs across Michael's polished silver armor, catching the sun and glittering like shattered glass. Piotr thrusts his blade through an enemy's visor. Davi drops his own weapon in a swift motion. A criminal collapses as Davi's spear pierces his torso, the weapon sinking deep into the wound. Michael sprints after a fleeing enemy, hesitates, and the assassin drives a thin stiletto into his side, shock flashing across his eyes. A crimson haze swirls around Michael's vision before he drives his sword through the attacker's throat, ending the struggle. Arl seizes a screaming woman, yanks her to the ground, and rips at her skirts with savage force. Michael leaps, ramming the stiletto into Arl's gullet, silencing the assault. From the brush, Marcus's bullet finds a second rapist criminal, dropping him. Michael wipes the blood from the civilians' faces, his own clothes soaked in the crimson of others. A wooden chest bursts open, spilling gold into several sacks. The scouts hover, demanding nightly counts. Any shortage will be repaid in flesh. On their return, they stumble upon a clash. A handful of Stent soldiers face twice their number of Ticinian foes. "Have a mage?" one shouts. A terse voice cut through the clamor, answering the shouted request with a flat no. And the battlefield fell into a brief, uneasy hush as soldiers braced for the next order. Tom's command rang out, urging the troops to set the enemy ablaze, and the air crackled with the promise of fire. Ali emerged from the shadowed trees, his staff glowing as he unleashed a roaring fireball that surged behind the enemy ranks, igniting the night air. A wave of flame consumed the armored soldiers, melting metal as they shrieked in panic, and the battlefield glowed with molten fire. Michael, Davi, and Pirate surged forward, cutting a path through the chaotic melee, their weapons flashing under the bright daylight. Michael's blade arced upward, releasing a radiant pulse that washed over his comrades, mending their wounds with a soft, healing glow. Ali unleashed a cascade of crackling lightning bolts, each flash briefly igniting the war-torn field as his eyes narrowed with fierce concentration. While Michael watched from the left, his hand clenched in readiness. Lance surged forward, his silver sword flashing like a comet as he cut through foes, eyes blazing with relentless resolve, while Michael and Ali flanked him, ready to support the gaunt knight. Lance seized the scout with a snarling growl, hurling him to the ground as his eyes narrowed, while Michael and Ali watched, tension crackling in the air. A sharp command rang across the clearing, demanding absolute silence as dust swirled beneath the muted gray daylight. In a low whisper, Michael learned that Lance's brother had been taken, fueling Lance's desperate resolve. Only 2 veteran soldiers stood beside Lance, their weary faces reflecting the looming defeat as they prepared to shield their commander. Michael leaned close to Lance, whispering counsel with earnest eyes, while General Aiken observed from the right and Ali crackled nearby, tension palpable. Lance listened, then nodded, affirming the new strategy for Stent. The column trudged through the bleak ditch, scaling the palisade before arriving at the fortified camp. The captive and the scouts were escorted toward the commander's tent. Michael, Farlan, and Bell ride back to the fortress in an empty hospital wagon, the canvas stripped of patience after Michael healed every wound. Only one criminal survived, Crick, who mutters, "Wasn't my kin. A thief and a rapist, to hell with him." Bell reads a coded dispatch, nods, and declares the mission a success, noting the gold will go far. Michael steps toward the fortress gate, the brand on his sword humming with latent power, ready to sear his skull. Bell barked the order, his eyes flashing with urgency as he gestured toward the infirmary, his voice cutting through the clamor of the makeshift corridor. A gruff voice echoed through the hallway, mocking the soldiers' restless energy and reminding them that only useful hands mattered now. The trio climbed into the creaking wagon as it rolled toward the front-line infirmary, the mist-laden road swallowing their silhouettes. Sergeant Farlan, his belly protruding and a bullet lodged in his knee, watched the scene with a stoic gaze that hinted at a rare, hardened kindness. A cluster of guards tightened their grips on spears, murmuring about the elven mercenaries who had raised a camp while the knight slept. A weary soldier muttered, "Take her or not, I just want to get home," his voice trembling with longing amid the stale air. Michael places his golden palm on Farlan's wounded knee, channeling warmth. Michael says, "You're not so bad for a penitent," as the pain eases under his touch. In the infirmary, Michael seals the serrated arrow wounds of the elves, his hands glowing as he mends flesh. A soldier's grateful smile finally rings sincere. The dragoon Merc arrives, swaggering like an academy show-off. Farland gently but firmly pushes Merc back, refusing to march the penitents hungry through the woods. The raid group slips from the thicket, with Rain and Tane at its forefront, their eyes scanning the misty field. Tane sneers at the takers while Rain steps forward, shielding them with a calm declaration of their survival. Ali hurls a blazing fireball toward the mercenary column, the orange sphere arcing through the air. The fireball engulfs the front rank of ragged men in stolen armor, their silhouettes swallowed by flame. Michael raises his shield, absorbing the burning enemy's pain and redirecting it toward a mace-wielding mercenary. 3 raids pass with only light losses, the battlefield quieting between skirmishes. Between battles, Michael drills a strike repeatedly, his focus deepening as he channels his inner power. The 4th raid arrives, a reverse ambush forming in the shadowed woods, as the mist-cloaked path narrows and tension crackles between unseen foes. A lone enemy fighter in gleaming armor strides forward, the blue banner bearing a black bird snapping in the wind as dwarves and elves march behind, their eyes fixed on the looming threat. Arrows rain onto Michael's shield. His amulet flares, searing his chest as it deflects a shot aimed for his eye, the impact igniting a brief crimson halo. Above the battlefield, the canopy opens to a shaft of bright sunlight, its beams cutting through the mist and highlighting the tangled branches like a silent witness to the clash below. An enemy mage shouts Rain's name. Rain leaps, thrusting his arm to shield Tane, while the fireball erupts, its blaze scorching Rain's back as he absorbs the blast. Michael reaches the smoldering wreckage, finding Tane clutching his brother's charred arm, while Rain steadies the fallen soldier and the unnamed son watches solemnly. "Penitent, bring him back," he pleads. "I can't," Tane replies, desperation evident in his voice. Tane presses his clenched fists onto Michael's steel helm, the metal buckling and denting under his grip as he snarls with fierce resolve. Tane roars a guttural command, "Bring him back," echoing through the trees. Michael drives his palm into his own temple, a sharp gasp escaping his lips as he shouts, "He died for you." Tane bolts into the woods, his arm still wrapped around his brother Michael's forearm as they sprint through the underbrush. An arrow whistles and pierces Michael's back, the serrated tip glinting as it embeds, a silent testament to the pursuing elves. Michael's eyes narrow as the realization settles. He cannot outrun his pursuers through the tangled forest. Michael darts onto the open road, eyes blazing with reckless confidence, his hands resting behind his head as he runs. A faint golden glow pulses from Michael's palm while arrows scream past, embedding themselves in his back. Run, Conqueror, and Fort Healer symbols flare around Michael, accelerating his stride as wounded arrows burst outward. The archer's silhouettes fade behind the trees as Michael bursts into the woods, yanking off his breastplate with a grunt. Michael pulls the lodged arrows free, thrusts them into a small flame that erupts from his palm, scorching the metal until the markings vanish. He drops to his knees in the night thicket, planting a palm on a warm, smooth stone fragment tangled in roots. Michael's glowing hand adheres to the stone, golden letters whirl around his fingers, searing his eyes as a fragment of inscription flickers. "She who wields." Dawn's light catches the brand on Michael's skin, flaring painfully as he crawls through mud-slicked ground on his hands. His breath ragged, Michael is discovered by a patrol and dragged to a cage labeled Deserter. Inside the cramped cage, Merc leans forward, grin wide, pointing a finger to confirm the charge, while Tane lunges ahead, eyes locked on the target, muscles tensed for the attack. Michael clamps his hand around the dragoon's throat, his grip tightening, but Bell steps forward, pulling the enemy back and freeing Michael, who exhales a relieved sigh. Davi rushes forward, throwing his arms around Michael with a fierce grin, shouting that he's alive, while Michael darts toward the infirmary. Bell lifts his golden hand and, with a sweeping motion, raises the fallen Piotr and Marcus back to their feet. 2 wounded soldiers lie side by side beside the cage, and a sealed letter from Bell rests between them, its emblem bearing the order for all surviving penitents to return to the fortress. An arrow pierces Farland's throat, Michael thrusts his right hand into the wound, fingers steady, his brow furrowed as he attempts to aid the wounded comrade. The arrow vanishes as a bright healing aura envelopes Michael, who raises his shield arm, armor gleaming, eyes closed in concentration, shielding the old man with his body. Marcus steadies his rifle, fires a precise shot, while Ali lifts his staff, summoning a crackling bolt of lightning. The blast strikes, sending 3 elves crashing to the ground. A beautiful beast-like figure staggers, and Michael meets its pain with his own, returning the strike to end its life. Bell, eyes never leaving the maps, studies fresh blood on elven daggers, his mind already mapping the outcome, and credits Farlan. Bell leads them through a sparring arena, dropping each opponent with 2 short swords. His speed and strength exceed his appearance, and his breath never falters. Michael places his palm to his chest, eyes widening as a cascade of titles flashes before him. Spymaster, Lord of Falstead. A voice whispers, "Now imagine how much I hid from you." After proclaiming the deeds of a duke and a siege, he continues, declaring that the most titles belong to you, making you the biggest fool, as they are given for stupid risk and such people die the fastest. A new title glows on his armor, the Wound Man. Its durability meter climbs as wounds heal, and the deed righteous defender appears beside it. Marcus leans in, whispering of escape. In Swandia parents can pay to close rifts, but Bell remains too dangerous. Michael answers with a silent nod, his reply unfinished. Bell guides them deep into Tessinia, explaining the plan to seize a castle still under siege by slipping through an ancient, forgotten sewer. The party reaches the crest of a hill, gazing over a vast battlefield strewn with rotting bodies covered in tan-colored cloth, clouds of flies swirling above the charred ground. A massive horse-sized vulture, the carrion king, looms over the corpses, its ragged feathers catching a harsh shaft of light as it swallows helmets whole and spreads its wings. A black plume of carrion birds ascends into the sky as a shouted command echoes, urging the mage to close ranks. Ali hurls fireballs that incinerate dozens of carrion birds, while Piotr circles behind the vulture, slashing at its beaks, and the creature's talons scrape across Michael's shield, sending sparks aloft. Davi throws his shield aside, snatches the vulture's talon with a bare hand, and clings to its wing with his whole body, halting its ascent. With a fierce swing, Davi rips open the vulture's belly. The creature crashes downward, screaming, and lands on Davi, its blood and entrails spilling onto the scarred ground. Michael kneels, his hand glowing continuously as he gathers Davi's torn organs, while Davi sits up, gasping. Bell's cold voice cuts through the chaos, chastising the reckless use of healing. A terse command rings out, "Fight as if he isn't with you." He explains the siege plan, warning that the castle's sewer pipe will release lethal gases and that only Ali's shield and Michael's hands can keep the party alive. The group crawls a mile through choking filth, dog-sized rats scurrying, spiked centipedes clacking. Sweat streams from Ali as the air thins, his shield flickering. At the exit, Ali's shield shatters, gas floods their lungs and everyone collapses. Bell smashes the hatch with a single blow, and Michael rushes forward, healing each comrade as they stagger toward the light. Above, Bell slices a guard's throat in a swift motion. Michael pursues a fleeing fugitive, dropping him with an elven dagger. In Tessinian uniform, Bell walks past patrols, his accent mimicking Marcus's. When asked about the dagger, Michael mutters a single word, "Cheated." At the side gate, the trio strikes the guards in unison, dagger, arrow, sword. A stone hurled from Ali's hand, then silently pry open the doors to Stent's black-cloaked soldiers. Ali unleashes 2 fireballs that sweep the gatehouse defenders. Bell's flare summons reinforcements waiting in the field, and the castle erupts in bloodshed. Michael slices a wound on the gate wall and immediately mends it, while Ali and Bell brace the stone, their faces set with resolve. Davi charges forward, slamming his massive shield into the breach, while Piotr darts beside him, sword flashing in a swift lash. Bell drags a wounded Michael through the gate into the inner keep. On the roof, Count Oscar appears in blue armor, sword raised. Bell clashes blades with Count Oscar, while a baron's retainer seizes Michael. A halberd shatters Michael's knee and arm, his helm crushing his nose. Michael channels his anguish into a single, decisive thrust, his blade piercing the baron's armor as the duel ends in a flash of steel and resolve. In the stone chamber, torchlight flickers over the countess as she kneels beside her trembling daughter, whose arm is tightly bandaged. General Awakens steps forward, his golden hand extending toward the wounded girl, a soft light blooming over her arm to knit flesh together. The general raises his voice, eyes blazing with fury as he shouts, "Count!" toward the vaulted hall. A voice echoes through the hall, "I've taken your family," reverberating with cold menace. The count's sword clangs against the stone floor, the sound ringing as banners flutter, signaling surrender. The camera pans to the triumphant general, his chest puffed as he basks in the cheers of the soldiers. Bell lingers in the shadowed corner, his indifferent stare fixed on the scene, while General Awakens continues to bask in the soldiers' admiration, both aware of the hidden success of their plan. A medic darts in, clutching a glowing sigil, and hands the wounded soldier to Michael, whose calm demeanor steadies the chaotic rush of the infirmary. Michael kneels beside the wounded soldier, his fingers gently aligning the broken leg bone, whispering an apology as the brand on his forearm flares briefly with pain. Bell steps forward, gripping the medic's arm to block the approach, while Michael raises his hand in startled concern, the tension between duty and compassion palpable. Bell growls, demanding proof of the brand's burn, his voice low and demanding, as the medic's eyes flicker with uncertainty, the air thick with unresolved tension. The mirror glints, its surface shimmering with fiery script that reads, "Castle Taker" and "Baron Breaker." Each title is surrounded by a halo of siege smoke and noble blood, underscoring the weight of their deeds. Piotr strides forward, his hands slicing the air toward Michael, who watches intently. A voice cuts sharply through the air, declaring enough guilt and self-abasing. He whispers, "Many are alive because of you." His words land like a blade, the tension palpable. At dawn, Bell kicks the heavy wooden door, sending it swinging open with a resonant thud. A jagged rift yawns in the nearby village, a vortex of dark energy crackling with ominous light. Mounted on a warhorse, Bell and Michael gallop toward the empty village, Michael's face tightening with resolve. A sickening sense of wrongness curls in his gut. His eyes dart to the horizon as wind whips his cloak. The deserted village lies silent, a cracked well bucket, blood-stained cobblestones, and deep drag marks scar the earth. Above, a ragged crimson wound hangs in the air, pulsing with a low hum that vibrates the sky. Bell points to the wound, his voice firm and commanding. Michael curses himself, muttering about the need for diviners, then extends a glowing hand toward the wound, his palm radiating golden light. The wound contracts under Michael's palm, shrinking until a young one's scream pierces the silence. Michael lunges forward, diving headfirst into the rift with a fierce cry. On the far side of the rift, a dim crimson sun hangs low over a black tree with scarlet leaves, while 6 bound captives huddle beneath its shade and 4 hulking horned giants gnaw on human flesh around a flickering fire. Michael hurls the first giant over his shoulder, tearing its belly open, then grapples 2 more as his blade ignites with tongues of flame that lick the giant's flesh. Bell, Davi, and Piotr burst through the rift. Marcus fires a precise shot, and Ali summons a bolt of lightning that sears the remaining giants. The heroes slash the captives' bonds, pulling them back through the shrinking rift. Back on their side, Michael clenches his fist as the rift collapses with a mournful howl, the sound echoing like a dying beast. For the first time, his heart swells with pure, clear righteousness instead of guilt. The mirror now bears the new title Rift Sealer, its inscription glowing with a soft blue shield that deflects blows, the rarest gift shimmering in the reflected light. Michael stares into the darkness, pondering aloud, rifts lead to other worlds. What if one leads to Earth? And what were those horned creatures that ate people? Michael's voice trembles with curiosity and dread. That night, Michael sits alone by a flickering lantern, his mind blank where his family's faces should be. He grabs charcoal and paper, his hands shaking as he sketches his wife Sarah repeatedly, each drawing crumpled and torn, the eyes too sharp at the corners, never quite right. Davi, who once drew in Rio, slides into the seat beside Michael, his silence a steady presence. He takes the charcoal and, with careful strokes, renders Sarah, the sons Vic and Gabe and the daughter Laura, each portrait capturing the warmth Michael cannot. Michael spreads the finished portraits on the table, his eyes filling with tears that fall without warning. The flood of emotion releases the lingering fear, his shoulders relaxing as he finally lets go. Michael carefully folds each sketch into his pack, whispering a quiet thanks to the divine for preserving their faces. Exhausted, Michael collapses onto the bundle of memories, his head resting on the papers as he drifts into a deep sleep. The march home continues on foot as the trio walks in a single line, the distant hills echoing their footsteps. Bell stops abruptly, his voice cutting through the wind as he declares, "From now on you work with me directly, special assignments only. No more standard missions." The weight of his words settles over the weary travelers, tightening the air around them. The trio surveys the overgrown Carrion King battlefield, where green shoots pierce the trampled earth and a lone bird perches on a cleaned horse skull. Michael kneels, kisses his pendant, and bows his head, praying silently for the fallen as the wind rustles the grass. Crick scoffs, arms crossed, challenging Michael, who lifts his hand as a flash of gold ignites his palm. Michael replies with a wry grin, "I get the impression they like me quite a lot," as the golden light fades, leaving a smirk on his face. Crick mutters, "Stent barely worships the divine, and no one even remembers the old gods' names anymore." While Michael's brow furrows, the weight of forgotten deities settling over him. Ali ambles up, deadpan, catching Michael's thoughtful stare as the training ground hums with distant clatter. Michael declares, "A wizard did it," his tone flat as the wind whistles across the yard. Michael shrugs his shoulders, a casual grin tugging at his lips as he declares, "Simple as that. Trust me. I'm a wizard, so I'd know," he says, his tone flat but his eyes glinting with hidden knowledge. Back at the fortress, a week of rest stretches out. Michael lies on a cot, eyes half closed, his mind restless. Rising swiftly, Michael seizes a wooden dummy and launches into relentless strikes, each clang of wood echoing across the yard. Michael summons a translucent shield, snapping it over his eyes as Marcus hurls a stone, the air humming with the clash of magic and rock. A single pebble freezes inches from Michael's eye, sending a spray of dust into the air. Muttering "Frio," Michael attempts frost magic while Piotr's breath forms a thin, icy mist, the air shimmering with cold. Michael freezes a cup of water, his thoughts drifting to the memory of Katerina, the coldest woman he ever knew. Leaning close, Michael whispers, "Ask the regulars about old Hume," then cuts Marcus off with a firm, "No." Michael answered with a flat tone, "Just curious," his eyes flickering with hidden curiosity as he kept his posture upright, while Marcus watched from a short distance, his brow slightly raised in silent appraisal. Crick lunged forward, his fist striking Michael's shield at the groin, the impact snapping the metal and drawing a sharp gasp from Michael as Marcus flinched, his hand instinctively reaching for his own weapon. Michael tapped Crick's neck with a quick, teasing finger, a sly grin spreading across his face, while Crick growled lowly, his eyes flashing with begrudging respect, and Marcus watched the exchange with a half-smile. Lance entered the yard from the far side, his eyes no longer sunken, his usual manic intensity tempered, and the surrounding fighters turned their heads to regard his steadier gaze. Lance moved a step closer to Michael, bowing his head slightly as he thanked him for averting disaster, his voice calm and grateful, while the others kept silent watch. Lance and Michael clashed swords with fierce force. The blades shattered on impact, scattering glittering shards that sprayed across their faces. each fighter's eyes widening in shocked awe. Michael steadies his palm, a soft golden aura blooming from his skin as the wounds on his opponent vanish. His eyes closed in serene concentration while the surrounding duelists watch the miraculous healing unfold. Lance leans forward, his crimson cape fluttering as he points a stern finger at Bell, refusing the younger officer's request and sealing the council's decision with an unyielding stare. The tension in the council chamber thickens, every breath sounding like a taut wire as the two officers stare down the empty space between them. Bell erupts, slamming his right fist onto the heavy desk. The wood splinters outward as his eyes blaze with fury, daring the council to challenge his resolve. The briefing begins. The target is Francesca, a life-taker who commands rock and stone, whose discoveries forged Tessinia's rich silver mines. Bell outlines the mission, demanding that Francesca be captured alive or slain, before she can slip beyond their grasp, his voice echoing off the stone walls. He explains that Francesca dwells in the eastern mountains near the Svict border, and that the plan requires crossing enemy lands to seize her and return before she vanishes forever. In the cramped bunk room, Marcus leans forward, shoulders hunched, and points a finger toward the map spread on the table, his voice low. He declares, "This is our best chance." His eyes narrowed as the dim lantern casts sharp shadows on his clenched jaw. The room is lit by flickering oil lamps, the walls lined with packed rations and worn armor. Michael stands beside the doorway, his hand gripping the hilt of his sword. He turns to Marcus, his expression hardening, and declares, "I won't let Lance, Jakub, or Crick die." He adds, "I'll keep an open mind until we reach the peaks." And the lantern light catches the edge of his blade, reflecting in his resolute eyes. The four riders burst from the camp, their horses kicking up dust as they gallop across the barren plain. Lance, Jakub, and Crick sit forward in the saddle, while Michael rides with raw, screaming thighs, his face twisted in pain. The knights beside them lean low, their bodies moving as if fused to the steeds, muscles straining against the wind. In the darkness of Michael's tent, an elf lunges forward, dagger glinting. Michael thrusts his golden hand forward, a flare of light blinding the attacker. He grabs the elf's blade and drives it into the creature's chest, the weapon sinking with a wet thud. The elf collapses, its eyes wide with shock. Outside, the night is a frenzy of steel. Lance swings his silver sword with fierce precision, the blade flashing as it cleaves an elf in half, sparks scattering from fur and bone. Ali steps forward, his hand pressing against Lance's throat, coaxing the wounded warrior's voice from a hoarse whisper to a rising shout. A massive rock soars overhead, its colossal wings beating thunderously against the dawn sky. Clutched in the rock's talons is a mountain goat, its curved horns catching the pale light. Jakub raises his hand in a dismissive gesture, and the beast lands with a thud, the goat shaking free before waddling away, indifferent to the small group below. The party arrives at a sprawling encampment, thousands of tents and makeshift walls dust-caked and scarred by battle, their silhouettes huddled against the night as tension crackles in the cold air. Under General Hans strides forward, armor clanking, and barks, "Fight my battle tomorrow," his voice cutting through the night as the troops tense in anticipation. "If you live, maybe I'll let you go." His voice echoes off the wooden palisades, and the crowd falls silent, the night holding its breath. In the infirmary's dim light, Michael kneels beside Krim, whose shaved head bears a faintly glowing penitence brand on her neck. He presses his hand to her cracked lips, a soft golden glow spreading over her wounds, and the night air shivers with quiet hope. He whispers, "I'll pray for you," before stepping back, his eyes lingering on the brand as the amber light flickers softly around them. Michael reunites with the remaining Academy survivors, Lee, Fong, Ogun, Iqbal, Prakash, and Adebisi, standing amid the ruined tents, his hopeful smile lighting the battered field. Their faces are gaunt, their armor dented, but they nod in silent acknowledgement, the weight of loss hanging heavy in the air. Two massive walls of gray and tan rise from the plain, closing like a cage around the battlefield. Michael pulls a small pendant from his chest, presses it to his lips, and murmurs, "Divine, give me the strength to protect my friends and end my foes mercifully." A faint golden aura flares around the pendant as the horn of war blares, shaking the ground. Ticinian cavalry thunder across the field, spears glittering, javelins arcing in a coordinated charge. Davi and Piotr swing curved blades in perfect sync, cutting a path through the enemy ranks as Michael charges forward, his shield raised. Michael lifts his shield, the metal gleaming, and slides his hand behind it. A burst of golden light erupts from his palm, mending a wounded soldier's broken arm. Nearby, a soldier's head is cleanly cleaved from his body. Michael's hand hovers, unable to restore what is gone. Arrows and bullets rain down. Michael's pendant snaps a stray arrow mid-air, the shaft shattering into splinters. A bullet strikes a skull, blood spurting, and Michael's healing light flickers uselessly over the wound. The spear lines crash together, shields grinding, men shoving forward. Michael thrusts forward with relentless precision, his movements mechanical, while Piotr's artistry and Davi's fury carve through the enemy. Mercenaries in blue sashes, men, dwarves, elves, break the line, herding the surviving penitents into a tightening circle. Michael raises his hand, and a small sun-like flare erupts, bathing the circle in warm light. The enemy cries, "Target the healer!" and the crowd surges toward him. Michael plants himself at the center, his body a shield. A dagger pierces his side, arrows thud into his armor. A sword slices the air, and finally a spear drives into his hip, pinning him. He continues to emit healing light, his breath ragged, as the attacks continue. A black-armored warlord lifts a massive greatsword above Michael's head. Michael clenches his teeth, drawing every ounce of his lingering pain into the towering warlord, and a surge of golden darkness bursts outward from his torso. The warlord staggers backward, his eyes wide as if blinded, while Michael and his companions watch the giant foe falter. Davi, Prakash, Lee, and Ogun surge forward, swords flashing, and together they cut the warlord down. Spent, Michael kneels on the stone bridge, extends his hand, and a gentle golden aura spreads over the wounded comrades around him. Ogun loses a hand in the clash, while Prakash and Lee collapse lifelessly, their bodies crumpling to the ground. The massive stent line grinds backward, slow and brutal, crushing the remaining defenders. Michael draws the last of his power, releases a final burst of light, and collapses onto the blood-soaked earth. He awakens to Davi's canteen pressed to his lips, the taste of water sharp. The Ticinian forces retreat, and whispers float through the camp, "Penitent healer," as soldiers glance at his fallen form. At a mass grave, Michael kneels among the dead penitents, his head bowed. He places his hand on each stone marker, murmuring a silent prayer for each soul thief, killer, unlucky wanderer, who bled beside him. Ogun storms forward, brandishing his severed hand, shouting, "Put it back on!" Michael presses the hand to the stump. Golden light flares, and the arm reattaches seamlessly, the metal joints clicking into place. Lance drags the group through the night, shadows cloaking them as they slip past the gate. He confronts a guard, his voice cold as a ducal heir's decree, and the guard lowers his weapon, eyes wide with fear. Michael stands before a polished shield, his reflection showing a faint glow. Michael's newly unlocked warrior mender deed glows on his armor as he practices, his eyes fixed with a determined stare, ready to choose a comrade to heal. The party skirts the dusty lane of a Ticinian village, where wooden homes line the road and young ones chase each other, their laughter echoing. Crick raises his hand in warning, his voice echoing the horrors of the city slave markets. The abandoned base camp at the mountain's foot lies silent, a smoldering fire reduced to cold embers. Tools are gone, and the scarred rock faces bare the memory of labor now ceased. The cave mouth yawns, a flawless circular opening with a floor polished smooth as glass. The stone walls are bare, showing no tools or runes, only a flawless surface that mirrors the torchlight. Deeper inside, A corpse lies split from shoulder to groin, its plate armor shredded like paper. Michael leans forward, his ear catching faint whispers as his eyes focus on the faint golden letters etched into the stone. The party bursts into the vast blue-lit chamber, the air humming with tension. At the far end of the chamber, a white statue of a shielded woman stands solemn. Beside the statue, an obsidian horror, half-centipede, half-four-armed man, rips a digger apart, its claws glinting. Blades, bullets, and lightning crackle against the creature's glassy hide, barely leaving a mark. The creature slashes Lance and Jakub, tears at Davi and Michael, and the four fall back into the protective glow of the statue's light. From the statue's shadow, Francesca, a gaunt geologist, steps forward, her eyes hollow. She laughs harshly, calling them poor unlucky bastards, her gaze instantly recognizing they are not Ticinians. Michael reads the inscription on the statue's base, the words echoing his resolve as golden whispers brush his ears, urging devotion. Michael nods, his resolve hardening into silent determination. Jakub whispers his longing, eyes downcast, yearning for home. His voice trembles as he admits missing his father. Jakub looks pleadingly at Michael, silently begging for a chance to survive. The monster grins with many mouths and snatches Jakub's head, the skull rolling away with a sickening thud. Michael darts forward, his hand glowing as he channels healing into the battle. Ceres's power floods him, igniting a golden holy flame on his sword. The flaming blade slices through the obsidian hide, fire licking the creature's flesh like paper. Michael shouts, "You do not belong here. You will not harm another." The sword declares as it severs the creature's back, driving the burning blade deep. The creature's scream erupts, then is cut short as its form collapses into ash, the light fading as the chamber returns to quiet blue. A massive unseen weight crashes down, pinning the hero to the cracked stone floor. His arm snaps with a sickening crack, his torso contorts beyond human limits, and he collapses to his knees, breath ragged. He hoists Jakub's limp head, cradles it against his shoulder, and presses a glowing sigil that seals the boy's wounds in a flash of white light. The boy's eyes never open, but his body steadies, whole again, as the hero gently lowers him beside the towering statue, its stone eyes watching. Lance looms over Francesca, a rope binding her wrists and a cloth gag choking her mouth, the grim tableau frozen in the dim cavern. Francesca tears the gag free with a fierce yank, her voice cracking as she shouts that Stent has been lying to them all along. Michael watches Lance's outburst, his eyes widening as the realization that his hereditary titles have been stripped away freezes his expression. He whispers, "Why did you have to look?" Crick, previously slumped with a sour, defeated stare, straightens his back. His features melt into a cold, calculating mask as he steps forward, revealing his true identity. He declares, "I am Knight Sergeant Crittenden, Stent's intelligence, Bell's man. Planted to watch you, to groom you all along." Lance admits he is bargaining Francesca to Goshen mercenaries for his captured brother, planning to hang himself after the trade. His titles already removed, and Jakub had known the truth. Michael's resolve hardens. He declares he will no longer walk Stent's path, that he will heal, serve the divine, and abandon the wall that has kept his friends from a better life. Lance unleashes all 5 blazing brands in rapid succession. The air shimmers with heat. Michael braces, then hurls the combined agony back in a torrent of radiant energy, striking Lance and sending him crashing to the ground, unconscious. Crick surveys the fallen combatants, his gaze lingering on each broken form. He mutters, "So much wasted potential," then turns and darts southward, his silhouette blurring as he disappears from focus. Michael places his palm on Marcus's brand. A pulse of divine circuitry flickers beneath his touch, revealing lethal traps woven through the sigil. A gentle, unseen presence, Ceres, guides his movements, steering his healing around each trap. The brand unravels into floating letters that streak southward, leaving the neck clean and unscarred. One by one, Michael frees Ali, Piotr, and Davi, each release demanding more of his strength. His breath hitches, sweat beads, but his resolve never wavers. He pauses before his own brand, doubt clouding his eyes. He wonders if fleeing his sentence is just, recalling the life he took unknowingly, the lingering guilt that will never fully fade. He releases a breath of anger, and the divine's light returns, guiding his hand. He lifts his own brand free, and a luminous seal closes the wound in his soul. Francesca, now unbound, steps forward, pleading, "Take me with you, to Swandia, to its great mountains and its dwarves." The group nods and she joins their march. The murmuring whispers coalesce into clarity. Devotion was never about self-sacrifice, but about offering deeds to the gods that kindle the holy flame. The lesson that cost Jakub his life, finally understood too late. He folds his family's portraits into his chest, feeling the lingering warmth of his wife's hand. Ahead lie Svikt, Swandia, and countless gods awaiting discovery. The divine settles over his shoulders, its voice resonant and whole. God-seeker, devotee, believer, pilgrim,